Emirates is absolutely erupted.
And on that note, Pat Nevin, in you come.
How are you doing, chaps? Are you well?
Very well, very well, very well. So much to discuss. We'll get on to the game yesterday in a moment and the Jack Grealish story, which is everyone very exercised, or the fan more to the point. But Zinedine Zidane back at Real Madrid. What were your first thoughts?
Am I hearing this right? Purely because, I mean, hey, he's done brilliantly as a manager. It's a totally different job he's going to be picking up now, i.e. a team that's really struggling in comparison with before. They are a Ronaldo-less team, but also a team that needs to be completely overhauled. It's a totally different job. But he's only just out of there. I mean, I have to say I didn't see it coming, purely because I just thought he'd made a decision. The only way is down. You almost think, for him, famously that club doesn't stick by managers, for any long period of time, well, particularly not at the moment. Okay, so it takes, a year, 2 years to turn it around? Do they give Zidane that sort of time? They should do, but will they give him that sort of time? So I have to say, it came as a real shock to me that he's actually got a job. But I mean, I understand it, and I'm not saying it's stupid or anything. But at least give the guy some time, for goodness sake.
Yeah, because this will require surgery. I mean, they're going to go on some spending spree this summer and probably for a transfer window or two after that, just to get this team back up to where they will demand it to be.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of clubs around the world thinking, oh my goodness, we'll not be able to turn this down. Of course, if they can afford the spending, that's another question that's been asked just now, whether they actually can do it or not. Don't worry, they've still got, we all know they've still got the pulling power. There's no doubt about that as well. But if you're looking at, just look at Chelsea, Hazard, that looks much more certain as of today. I thought Hazard was likely to go anyway if Mourinho had taken the job, which I suspected he would. But no, he takes the job and you think, right, okay, big money's been spent, wages, no problem whatsoever. But also, is it Hazard, or does he have to look at PSG and think, right, what can I get from there? Particularly the forward line.
So, Pat, I know there's a Premier League weekend to discuss, but I suppose the Jack Grealish incident, or more so the fan attacking Jack Grealish incident, was obviously one of the major stories to come out at the weekend. Now, I don't know what your take is on this. There's been quick action. The person in question is heading off to jail for 14 weeks. So I guess there's been some kind of swift justice here. But in terms of this and the trend of your fans coming onto the pitch at other games, is this a troubling time? Is this something we should all be worried about?
I think it is, because these incidents, 3 incidents, have happened within the space of less than 48 hours. And it just looks like copycat. It happens at the Rangers-Hibs game, to my massive embarrassment. I'm a Hibs fan, and it was an idiot from Hibs that ran on. Then it happens to Grealish, and then it happens in the United-Arsenal game. You're thinking, this is just a few idiots to think it's okay. Now, there's lots of people taking lots of ideas out of it, like this is social media's fault because you can say anything you like. Now they feel as if they can do anything you like. But I do feel as if it is a copycat thing. The 14 weeks thing, I'm not convinced that it will have the extreme effect that the authorities hope it will have, 14 weeks in jail. That's not to say it's the wrong thing. You really have to just look at the law. What does the law say? So it happens in a football pitch. Is it really that much difference? It happens to you in another job? I don't know. Are footballers more important? I don't think they are. It's just another job. Yes, it can have ramifications in the wider sphere. You can be watched all over the world, the embarrassment that goes, but the law is the law. So if the law is wrong that 14 weeks isn't enough for that guy, well, it's the same law for everybody else. So if you're sticking people in for 6 months or a year for doing that sort of thing, well, you're going to have to do that in the street as well. And that's a kind of unusual road to go down. So to be honest, I'm not saying what's right or what's wrong. I'm just saying, don't think it's an easy black or white answer to that one, just to stick people in jail for longer. Over the years, that's been shown not to work. Certainly, the appropriation that's rained down on them, that will help. But also the downside of it is, they've got a hell of a lot of publicity these people, haven't they? And do you know what? There are people out there who think, 14 weeks in Choky, I'll do that for becoming famous and known. It's a slightly concerning time, more than slightly concerning. But it's not new. It's been there before. I was at a Chelsea game on Sunday there, and as I was talking about it on the BBC, a guy walked past me, and it was Clive Walker. And I can remember him being attacked on the field when I was playing against him. He was playing for Sunderland and I was playing for Chelsea. It's happened before. Worryingly, we've got a bigger problem in Scotland than they've got in England at the moment. There's been a lot of coin throwing. The kind of sectarian singing's got a wee bit more extreme again. It's really kicked off again up in Scotland. And again, not blaming any single club in it. It's just there's a small part of the society and is having a strange effect on everyone at the moment.
Like, I mean, sorry, Joe.
No, go on.
No, I was just going to say, like, Pat, I mean, I know that in response to yesterday, there was a debate about, I mean, should Birmingham be hit with a points deduction, or, you know, stadium bans, or, you know, behind closed doors and stuff. I mean, I appreciate you mentioned one instance and you referenced Scottish football there, and you referenced one instance and then, well, what about this other, and you go round in a cycle. But I mean, do you have to look at some kind of strong sanctions like that if the 14-week offence isn't going to put off, you know, similar people from just trying to make themselves a hero, that clubs get punished in some way, and that I don't know, in some way establishes some kind of response to it?
There is no chance that the clubs being docked points or stadiums being closed for a game is going to stop complete and utter idiots. They're nothing got to do with a club. So you've got them at every club. I mean, I've been an executive at a club before, and you can keep 20,000, 15,000, 40,000 people absolutely, you know, perfectly controlled, everything working all right, and one idiot, one lunatic. And you think, does everybody suffer from that? Is that really fair? The club who's paying thousands on policing, thousands on stewarding, okay, I think the idea that you should be paying stewards more, getting them better trained, and maybe getting more in. But you watch some of the games near the end of the games particularly, there's so many stewards there. And as soon as you get too many stewards there, people start complaining it's affecting their view and all that sort of thing. It's not a simple thing. This strict liability, which is what you're talking about just now, the clubs pay for the misdemeanours of the supporters, whatever they are. It sounds like a really nice idea. Just think about it. How many clubs out there, and there are a few of them, big clubs as well, where the fan base despise the people that run the club or own the club? They would happily wind them up and annoy them. And you put something else on top of that as well. People are making political statements. That's nothing got to do with the club as well. You get onto the part. Now, your political statement might be something, I don't know, it may be a racial thing, it may be a country thing, it may be, you know, equality thing, I don't know. Whatever it is, if you go in and do that, then your club suffers from it, just for one idiot. And I ask anybody out there, I really do ask anybody out there, if you're at any football game, because we can't have, I don't think we can have the barriers up again. You know what happened to Hillsborough, we can't have that again. So what do? Do you have the entire ground ringed by stewards with only about a foot between them? It seems madness, you know, to do that. I don't think there's an easy answer for it, and everybody out there tells me an easy answer for it. They usually do it 140 characters, and it really doesn't do it justice.
No, I think that's very true. I mean, at the moment, this hasn't been a terrible solution. It would strike me, I was chatting to Dan, we were talking about it earlier on. So, idiot comes on the pitch, there are going to be idiots everywhere. I agree with you that strict liability is unfair and just feels too much, like too much. And football does have a responsibility and should pay for stewards and policing, but ultimately it can't 100% stop these kind of things happening. And then when they do happen, it's a societal issue. The law steps in. The law has stepped in. Seems to have done so very quickly in this instance. I think 14 weeks is not a bad deterrent at all. Maybe they up it, maybe they don't. I still think 14 weeks is no fun. And you kind of hope this little cyclical copycat phase that we're in, like they always do, just dissipates slightly, and then we don't talk about this situation for 2 years. I'd be quite optimistic that's what will happen.
Yeah, and me too. Just a slight concern in Scotland, I'm seeing something a wee bit darker, you know, coming on as well. Lots of coins being thrown.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of danger, that sort of thing. But then again, if you catch these people, if you've got CCTV, quite often you have got footage, you can maybe catch them. It would be lovely to think you could ask the people sitting beside them, you know, who was it, and they could point them out. But that generally doesn't happen. But you're right, we are in the law of the land. The amount of people who say, you should, you know, make an example of them. I've never got that. I've really never got that. If you make an example of that person, so another criminal isn't worthy of making an example of, it's grossly unfair. We need to go by the law of the land, and if the law of the land isn't strong enough for the people who make the laws and the people who vote for the people who make the laws, then you have to adapt them and change them. That's called democracy.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I mean, nobody says let's shut down pubs when fights happen in pubs.
Exactly.
But it is, I suppose, just uncomfortable when you have players, multi-million pound assets, not that that actually is important one way or the other, but players just so vulnerable, I suppose, is the point, to idiots. They can be a target for idiots. That's the really uncomfortable part, isn't it? Like we were just chatting again, worst case scenario, Monica Seles jumps to mind. And again, these kind of things don't happen very often. But if the worst case scenario happens, then we are in big trouble.
So that can happen walking out the stadium on the team bus.
Sure.
That can walk when you're walking out your car going to somewhere else. That can happen.
Yeah.
You know, you're not surrounded by security guards 100% of your day, unless you're one of the hyperstars of the world, or you've got a specific threat. There is threat and danger around in this world just now, and you try and take sensible, logical steps. And I think to some degree, or to a great degree, sensible, logical steps has been taken as much as possible. Here's a weird one for you. Completely turn it on its head. I always thought, because it wasn't somewhere in the back of your mind as a player, it's always there that someone might come on and do it, to try and damage you, try and do something and run on. I honestly think they are at such a disadvantage unless they run behind you and you get a set of studs on. If you're a footballer, anyone runs towards me, I'm on a football pitch, I'll break your leg. I will. I'll break your leg. And it's wrong. And I'll go to jail for it.
Yeah.
But just to completely make sure that I'm safe, I'll do you. And I'm not the biggest, toughest, strongest footballer out there. So the people that do that, when they ran on at the Manchester United game there, they're running past and I'm thinking, whoa, you're taking a chance.
Yeah.
Because if any of those players fancy lamping you, you're not getting up in a hurry. I was so impressed that they didn't actually do it.
Yeah, that is the thing. I mean, if Grealish turns around and decks your man when he comes onto the pitch, but I think there probably would be some sense of revulsion if he did that as well.
Oh, no, he'd get jailed.
Yeah.
He really would. He'd get done for assault without a shadow of a doubt. You can't do it. You can protect yourself. That's all you can do.
Ashley, as a matter of interest, you played with the spectre of hooliganism, and we look back on the dark days of the 80s as if it was carnage. What was the ratio of streakers or pitch invaders across a given season in your 38 games or however many games it was then?
I've never seen it. Never seen a streaker, thank goodness. But there were pitch invasions. I'm trying to think. I mean, not that many. I was at the very famous Celtic Rangers game many years. Was it 1980? I think it may have been that year. I was when there was police horses charging up and down Hampden Park, and never since then have they allowed alcohol to be sold to fans inside Scottish stadiums. So it had a massive effect, and you couldn't let that happen again. Many people argue that should be lifted and raised now, and I think it's a decent enough argument. But these things start happening, coins and whatever, then it puts it to the back of the queue again. For me, it was mostly, it happened in the terraces, because remember then, they could fence the terraces, and many of them were. Most of the time, though, it wasn't. I say fans, I didn't think they were fans. I thought they were people that are following football clubs and use them. The vast majority of people were fine. But there were fights. There was a short period where, every 2 or 3 months you would go. You knew the games that was going to happen. If Chelsea were playing Millwall, if Chelsea were playing Cardiff, or there were certain ones where it would kick off. But 90% of the time it was outside. My favourite one, it has to be said, and it's back to that game I was talking to you before. Playing against Sunderland for Chelsea down at Stamford Bridge. Clive Walker, former player of ours, had scored a couple of goals and enraged some of the Chelsea fans. And some of them got onto the pitch, and there was a bit of a fight happening on the pitch. The game carried on. There was a minute to go. The ball was played over the top. I ran onto it and scored and lobbed it over the keeper. And there's a picture somewhere that sees, I lob over the keeper, there's a police horse running by me, going the other direction. And as I often say, that police horse was definitely offside. But it's the most surreal thing. But it was, I know, it was so much worse then.
Yeah.
But, it wasn't happening every week.
No, I think it is just a cycle. There was a period there where fans were making monkey gestures to black players in the last 2 years, and it seemed to be happening for 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row. Outrageous. But I don't know. There's something subliminal, or in the psyche whereby there is a copycat element to this stuff that's there as well. I must confess, right? And Gary Neville said David De Gea should absolutely have saved the Xhaka shot, but in my brain, just looking at his body shape and the way I thought his foot had wrapped around the ball, I was with David De Gea in taking a step to De Gea's left when the ball went in.
100% with you. 100%. I was really surprised. He said, "Oh, the keeper has made a wreck there. I got it completely wrong." The ball moved. It was ridiculous the way that ball moved, and also the way his foot was. It looked as if it was going a certain way. And it's one of those. Again, I've said it 100 times. I'll say it again. Never judge these things in slow motion. They never happen in slow motion. That's what they show you, and you go, "Wow, what happened there?" And then you slow it down, and you think, "Oh, he should have moved backwards." No, you can't do that. It's in slow motion. At match speed. You should only look at that at match speed. At match speed, it's absolutely weird the way that moves. And he's a brilliant goalkeeper. I mean, how often do you see it happen? It doesn't happen very often. It was a complete freak of a shot in a situation. Had to be the right side of it, he'd have saved it, absolutely. But the ball moved. It was mad. It happens now and again.
Yeah.
That's why when we see the balls coming in towards the keeper and they punch them away, and we all say, "Why is he punching it?" We've probably not seen that movement that he's seen there. I'm just thinking, no, I can't take a chance. Just get everything, get it away.
Yeah, because there was quite strong disagreements about it, you know. Like Gary Neville said in a very simple kind of outcome-based way, well, it's 30 yards from goal, it didn't take a deflection and it went into the middle of the goal, it should have been saved. And Alan Shearer said that De Gea was a bit late setting himself, so he was almost just that little bit in the air at the vital moment, and he should have set himself earlier. But frankly, I think David De Gea knows how to set himself for these shots. I was more with Carragher, and I knew really that everything pointed to that ball going the other way, and the balls do funny things. And it was gusty as well, though I don't think it was the wind that took it. It wasn't high enough for the wind to take it. It was just, the more you watch it in slow motion, you can sort of see he doesn't quite wrap his foot around it the way it looked like he had.
There's plenty of times in your career you hit a ball and you just don't catch it right.
Yeah.
And it goes a completely different direction. It goes a kind of clean or an odd direction.
Yeah.
And when you don't catch it that way, it almost always ends up in a goal. You know, it's kind of a strange one. In these situations, you know, for all my respect to the pundits you talk about and all of us who watch the game, I would ignore all of us and listen to a modern keeper.
Yeah.
And just let I want to hear them. That's all I want to hear.
Yeah.
Because they know much better than the rest of us. They're in the end of them. They train with these balls all the time, in these shots all the time, and they'll know that situation. And it's amazing when you ask one of them, they usually all come to the same agreement. And it's usually, it's not just to back up the goalies. It's just, no, that's unsavable in some ways, because the slight movement, but also the massive movement of the ball.
So it was a strange goal, and then there was the penalty. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was going to have to lose eventually in the Premier League. This didn't seem like such a damning way to do it. It was I put it to you, as about as an acceptable 2-0 defeat away from home as you could kind of have.
Yeah, they had chances. Lukaku had his chances, didn't he? What I saved that was, I thought it was a bad miss by Lukaku, but the one that was hit off the bar. And they played with the passion again. You know, and you kind of, to go and do what they've been doing so incredibly for such a period of time now. Of course, there's going to be a little blip, but have a look around. You know, I keep on saying everyone's having blips. Chelsea had a blip. They're having another little wobble this weekend. Spurs are having a mega blip at the moment, and they're all having little ones like that. So I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be particularly perturbed about that at all. And to be honest, I don't think the players have come down again from the game at PSG. It was just such an astonishing, magical, amazing evening to be there. It was, I mean, but all the games I go and watch, I mean, I go 2 or 3 a week usually. How many of them do you really, really remember?
Yeah.
I know I'll remember that for the rest of my life, being in that stadium, seeing it happen and feeling what I was feeling there. It was utterly extraordinary. And, you know, I know it's not a final, and I was there at the final when Solskjaer scored his goals over in Barcelona, but that I remember that for the rest of my life. But watching that, I mean, I don't know, I didn't watch it in telly, so I don't know, but if half of it or a quarter of it came across, it was an amazing night. And I think they're still high for that, and I still think they'll live off that for a while, i.e. 2 minutes to go, they'll think they can do anything.
Yeah. I did come across. I mean, right from when Lukaku scored, it was just engrossing and intriguing, and it was on. And there was something amazing about the way Manchester United went about their business. Even without a possession, they were so aggressive. They were always trying to get close to a man and put a foot in. And they really went for it in just a brilliant way. And then, look, when he starts throwing on kids that you haven't even heard of.
Well, how does Mason Greenwood and the other young players come on? How did they... This is a weird introduction to football at a certain level, surely. Like, this is not representative of reality, surely.
Yeah. And then, I was just thinking as well, Marcus Rashford, literally for as long as he's had consciousness, Gianluigi Buffon has been one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And then there he is, taking a penalty against him in the last minute of the game. I mean, it was just amazing.
There are so many stories to it. I was saying after the game, one of the things I expect to happen, UEFA and FIFA have got technical committees, and they often get certain games and they basically deconstruct them, do massive reports on, explain what happened in the tactics. This is one of them. It absolutely is one of them. So many things happened tactically in that game. I mean, first of all, applaud Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who made so many brilliant decisions in the second half, changed the system, team, everything so many times. But what a mess it was for 30 minutes at the start of the game at the right back position. It was horrendous. It was, after the 3 or 4 minutes, you're thinking, no, that can't happen. Stop that now. And then 20 minutes later, still happening, but they managed to hang on. It was the weirdest thing they got away with it. So, yes, once it made that change, which, may have been needed, Bailly might have been injured, but maybe it wasn't.
Maybe it wasn't.
He had to got him off, and it just steadied it. And then after that, the tactical little change, because you're in the ground, you can see the tactical little manipulations he was making throughout. And every one of them, you're thinking, yep, got you, know why you're doing that, and it's working. And you're right. So all the tactical stuff, the luck that you needed as well. And on top of that, you mentioned that, those youngsters. But McTominay, he was bullying world-class players all over the place. And Verratti, great player, absolutely brilliant player. He was dominated by McTominay, who's just a young kid, Scott, who's done quite well. Honestly, he played like Pogba. He just, more pure power than that even. So watching him and then Fred coming into a game like you'd never seen him before, absolutely brilliant. And the very, very simple thing, which Ollie always seems to do now, away from home, he always plays 2 up front. And just people don't expect it. Even when you're defensive, he plays 2 up front. And it's working for him the vast majority of the time. And it could have worked for him against Arsenal because, Lukaku could have scored.
Pat, just a couple of other things. You actually mentioned Spurs and passing the mega blip that they're having at the moment. And even Pochettino at the weekend, his language after the game, I think he referred to arrogance and complacency from his players. It's sort of slightly troubling language for a manager to be using. I know he's looking for a reaction or whatever it might be, but are we getting into like serious crisis, for want of a better term, sort of territory with Spurs at this stage?
Well, it's the old nuclear option one. We've seen them do it before. We've watched Mourinho do it and thought, what are you doing? Well, you've tried everything else. You need to try that. Have a dig at the players. As the modern parlance has it, dig them out. And see if it has the reaction. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. He's probably tried everything else, that he can think of just now. Watching them recently and been to see them a couple of times recently. Couple of things I'm just not getting at. Eriksen, who I adore as a football player, absolute shadow of himself at the moment. It's almost as if we knew that a lot of players after their World Cup season will fade at some point. It happens they almost all fade or get injured or something happens. What you don't want is 3, 4 or 5 of them in your team to all happen at the same time. If it happens to 1 or 2 of them, you can shuffle it about and move it about. It seemed to me Spurs have got quite a lot at the same time at a beginning to and even Harry Kane, who's still scoring, not quite what he was before, and Dele Alli's been injured, so all that World Cup thing all coming together, and it all seems to be hitting them right at the same time, and the confidence will start really fading away throughout the squad because of that. So it might be the fact that Chelsea fans have got a phrase, they call it, they've Spursed it again, haven't they? Because they get to that bit, and I don't think they've Spursed it. I just think the limitations of the size of the squad have been pushed yet again, and they're beginning to show that they fray at the edges because it's not a big enough, deep enough, strong enough, good enough squad.
At the top of the table, City and Liverpool both won. Shaky start for Liverpool. You thought, oh my God, and then they rallied and won well in the end. So they're away to Bayern on Wednesday. I must say, all the talk of Bayern not having a good year and not even top of the Bundesliga, they are now, but they weren't in advance of the first leg. I don't know, I was probably naively expecting them to be a bit of a rabble, and then they pitched up at Anfield and kept the ball brilliantly for the first 15-20 minutes. I thought really looked experienced and good, and 0-0 as they head back to Germany. This is really intriguing tie. Do you feel strongly one way or the other?
I think if Liverpool play at or around their best, I think they'll go through still. Okay. I really do. Just with the capabilities that they've got. I mean, you're thinking of Bayern. Would you really bet that often against Liverpool not scoring? I know they've had a little bit of a drought recently. But if their best players turn up, you still think they could score a goal. And then that's down to Bayern scoring 2 against them. And to be fair, there's not many people scoring 2 against Liverpool just now. So it looks, because obviously Bayern at home, it's still 0-0. They should be favourites. Yes, they are. But the minutest of favourites for me. I will not be even mildly surprised if Liverpool get through this one. And they might have even taken a wee lift out of watching Manchester United, dare I say that, because, anything's possible. You go to these big clubs and are they the powerhouses that they were before? Well, certainly Bayern aren't, but they're not terrible. I mean, they're not rubbish. They're a right good team. Yeah. But, they are doable. And I think if I was United, I'd like to be, I'm at Manchester City, Schalke, and someone said to me the other day, it's 3-2, that one's over. I'm never going to say that again after that Manchester United 2-0 down against PSG. You cannot depend on anything. Yeah,
I sort of feel that one is over though. I'll say
it. Well, do you know what? I'll not say it until I see the team sheet. Okay. And if the team sheet says it's a strong City side, then party over. It's going. They're through to the next round.
That's good as. Did you catch Ajax against Madrid, by the way?
No, I was travelling at the time. Okay. I only come home for one day a week to speak to you from my home here, and then I'll go travelling again for the games. I didn't see that one. I'd seen the goals. I watched the goals and a tiny bit of the highlights, but I couldn't watch the whole game. And it was, I don't know, you maybe have watched more of Ajax than I have, but I've been thinking for quite some time now, I'm not going for the hype yet. And then you look at that and you think, actually, maybe I should be going for this hype because bits of it looked great. But it was a Tadic who scored and played an absolutely
the funny thing was even Tadic at full time said to the journalists, I think that's probably the best game I've ever played in my life. So everyone had a good day. There was a bit of that to it as well.
Well, you need to have it in those sort of occasions, but I suppose they all work off each other, and there is a real youthfulness to that squad as well, as we all know. So that youthfulness can work together. They all start believing in each other. And it's going back to your point you were just making there about the Manchester United kids. Well, two of them come on, but they can see Rashford in front of them and think, oh, no, he can do it. He's one of us. We can do it as well. Real lift that they get having their mates around. If you bring in, they often say don't bring in a bunch of kids at the same time, but sometimes bringing in a couple together isn't a bad thing, because there's that comfort of having each other beside each other, because you'll be roommates, you'll be training every day, you'll have your own jokes and laughs between you, and that can actually help. And just looking at that Ajax side, they seem to have a pretty young-ish group together who, when they have a good night or having a good night at Real, they just look at each other and think, yeah, we're on to this. And you know what it's like, youth with that exuberance, and suddenly you come up against a team that doesn't seem to have quite that fight. It can take you a long way. Yeah, no doubt. That's a great point about putting a few in together, actually, in terms of comfort levels. I think we're pretty much out of time. Pat, pleasure. Enjoy the midweek action. I hope Schalke give you a good game all the same. Yeah, and the next one after that's Kiev, so I think Chelsea are through in that one. That's one I'm willing to depend and bet on that one. Chelsea will get through to the next league. Part of the Europa League. 3-0's enough for them. Okay, good. We'll play that back next Monday when we've had the mother of all shots. And I know you will if it goes wrong. Listen, pleasure as always. Thanks a million. See you soon. Pat Nevin there. Short break and then some more thoughts from myself and Dan.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Now with same-day withdrawals to your Visa debit card.
You couldn't make it up.
If you've been thinking about coming along to News Talk's witty, irreverent and very funny comedy news panel show, then you really should get your skates on, as there are only 2 episodes left.
Irish audiences, we cheer because we think we've been brought somewhere. Come on, Ireland! Woohoo! Where are we going?
The last pair of programmes will be recorded in front of a live audience at Tramline in Dublin City Centre on Thursdays, March 14th and 21st at 6:30pm.
Tell them nothing.
For free tickets, go to newstalk.com/events. But hurry, when you couldn't make it up is gone, it really is gone. For now, anyway.
You couldn't make it up with Pat O'Mahony
In partnership with Tesco. Saturday mornings at 9:30.
on News Talk.
Football Index is reinventing football betting. You can buy and sell the world's top players. Their value may go up and down, but it's not over with the final whistle like a regular bet. Football Index reinventing football betting.
Start building your portfolio today at footballindex.co.uk or download the app now. New customers only, minimum deposit and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
Napoleon Bonaparte, 5 foot 2 inches tall. Queen Victoria, 5 foot on the button. And there's definitely someone closer to home I'm forgetting. The thing is, small and powerful is quite the combination, especially in the Skoda Octavia 1 litre, where our small turbo petrol engine is rewriting the history books for power and fuel efficiency in a family car. Learn more and book your Octavia 1 litre test drive at skoda.ie. Skoda. Simply clever.
Your to-do list. It's always pretty chock-a-block. There's the things from yesterday you never got to yesterday, and the things for today you'll probably put off till tomorrow. But don't put off saving up to €647. Go direct to Energia and switch to Ireland's cheapest dual fuel bundle. For the biggest savings, the thing to do is to always go direct. Visit energia.ie. Energia, the power behind your savings. EAB €1,470 based on average annual usage. 12-month contract, discounted unit rate, standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax, T's and C's and early termination fee apply. Valid from March 2019 and subject to change. Verification and T's and C's at energia.ie/EAB.
Class, listen up. Mental maths. If the school won €50,000, how could we spend it? Sean?
A new playground, rugby balls, or a rugby pitch on the moon.
Why there?
Plenty of space.
Spend €30 in Aldi and collect Irish rugby stickers for your primary school's chance to win €50,000 for playing facilities. Aldi, official supermarket of the IRFU. Full details at aldi.ie/play rugby. Promotion open from the 28th of January to the 7th of April 2019.
No one does Cheltenham quite like QuinBet. With a huge selection of markets on horse racing, plus all your favourite sports. We've got you covered right through the festival and beyond. And now with live casino and Irish lottery betting, you can find us on mobile, app and PC. QuinBet.com. T's and C's apply. Gamble responsibly. Visit gambleaware.ie.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Now then, welcome back. So a few bits and bobs. I was reading, by the way, my Irish Independent this morning, and Dan McDonnell had his good week, bad week type roundup.
Rising stock, falling stock.
Rising stock, falling stock. And my favourite headline was, on the falling stock, the Midlands.
English Midlands. Bad time for the English Midlands.
Bad weekend for the English Midlands, which
it's almost like something happened on Sunday that I had to update a point that I sort of
already had
from Saturday.
These included Jack Grealish situation, which we discussed, and West Brom sacking Darren Moore.
Yeah, fourth in the table, Darren Moore. Now, I suppose there was
in their last 3. That's enough to get you the sack, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and they've scored a lot of goals. I think they've got 68 goals this year, which I think is like the fifth highest or fourth highest total, maybe fifth highest total in the 4 English leagues. I suppose there was a certain amount of goodwill with Darren Moore, has to be said. You know, as a young black manager working in a league where there isn't enough black managers, that I think that's a fair and a valid talking point. And I think obviously in response to him being sacked sort of, I think slightly abruptly, you'd have to say, there's a question of, well, this is not very encouraging. Now, I don't know, can you extrapolate a theory based on the decision of one board of management, you know, at one particular period in time? There certainly was a feeling that West Brom had a very good squad, and while they are fourth and pretty much safe in the playoffs, the argument would be that their recent performances haven't been that good. that maybe if they are going to be in the playoffs, which they are going to be in the playoffs, that maybe they need to hit it with a bit of momentum because they need to get up, because there was stuff written about West Brom towards the end of their time in the Premier League. The wages they were playing and still paying some players is quite extraordinary. So I guess maybe fourth mightn't be deemed a massive success in the context of the clubs ahead of them. Norwich, Leeds and Sheffield United haven't come down from the Premier League. You know, they were in the Championship already and have sort of improved this year. But at the same time, it still seemed, it jarred a small bit as a decision.
No, I saw a lot of people saying it was a harsh decision.
Yeah, I think you know, it was his first full season as a manager, so, you know, give him the season, you would think.
Fourth is not a disaster, even if it's not perfect. They won just 4 of their last 12 in the Championship. Position in the playoff, not enough to save more. Nor's assistants, been enormously difficult decision for the club, said Mark Jenkins. Took over at a very difficult time last season. He reunited the club. Contribution will never be forgotten, but we made it clear from the outset that everything this season was geared to make a swift return to the Premier League. Unfortunately, Darren has not been able to engineer the consistency of form or the results to convince the board that this objective would be met. Discussions with the owners, a very difficult decision, yada yada yada. We thank Darren for his dedication over the last 12 months. I accept your point. He's not the first or last manager who hasn't been given enough time, I suppose.
No, I mean, geez, the stats for how long you get in the Championship or the English Football League is crazy. And the one thing you would say is, was it 3/4 of managers almost don't get a second job? Darren Moore will. I think he's left with this outpouring of disappointment or shock or whatever you want to call it, sympathy. Will ensure that he gets a crack somewhere else, I think. But it's still. I think maybe if you take away sort of the broader issue that I referred to there, like, it does show that management at that level is unbelievably volatile. Like, you see Martin O'Neill go in, Nottingham Forest won at the weekend. They're actually creeping up the edge of the playoff picture, and he's talking about, you know, speaking to the owner in the summer. But if Martin O'Neill gets to the summer and gets probably through 6 months of next season, he'll probably be in the top half of longest serving managers in the Championship. And he was only appointed in January. You know, it is a crazy level. And there is no time, there is no patience, and I guess Darren Murray, you fall off the horse, you get back on it. Sorry, you know, when it's Cheltenham week and all that, but it still just seems unfair. But I guess it's one of these things that from afar you say that, and maybe the West Brom fans week on week have been moaning for the last 8-10 weeks about how they should be doing better. There did seem to be some of that, I must say, in some of the local fallout too.
Mick McCarthy was in the Late Show, Dan.
I didn't see it. He was at Bowes against or Bowes against Derry on Friday. I was at the game, and then it was someone pointed out he'd left reasonably early, and obviously he was heading across town to make his appearance. Yeah.
So I'm seeing bits and bobs about Patrick Bamford.
Yes.
Him and Mick are texting each other.
But Patrick Bamford is 25, Leeds United striker, is Chelsea, Middlesbrough, Nottingham Forest. You know, he's been around and was a best player in the Championship a couple of seasons ago when Mick McCarthy thought Daryl Murphy should have been player of the season when Daryl Murphy had that brilliant season, and it was a young Patrick Bamford who actually scooped the awards. But Bamford, it would appear, is now, after not responding to some messages or not responding to McCarthy's attempts to set up a meeting, more to the point, has decided that he's up for a meeting.
So what's happened
The FAI, Mick McCarthy was in town.
Mick McCarthy swiped right.
Yes, he swiped right, and
Bamford didn't initially.
Patrick Bamford's like, my agent actually put me on this site. Okay. I didn't do it myself.
But then he saw Mick.
And they tried to arrange a meeting. It's like, let's go for a coffee sometime. And Patrick was always busy, or he was injured, he was sick, and Mick decided to go public and say, I've been trying to meet this lad. I've been trying my damnedest to meet him. He knows I've been trying to meet him. And 3 or 4 days later, Patrick Bamford scores twice for Leeds, and Mick decides to text him the following day, and he gets a response. Now, the FAI website, the official FAI website, gave us the news update that Bamford and Mick were texting. Like, this was a story on the bottom paragraph of an FAI report. But
screen grab
contact is now, there was no screen grabs. Contact has now been opened up. This is a development, and then obviously carried through to last week. Mick McCarthy named his provisional squad.
I can hear Kevin Kilban's palm hitting his face.
Oh, he's already expressed his dissatisfaction with this on Saturday. You were obviously rugby mode at the time, but Kev is not too impressed. He said last week he'd prefer if Porrigamond was in the squad, as opposed to Patrick Bamford. So Bamford then scored for Leeds again, and they are second in the Championship. He scored the weekend.
To interrupt for a second, so he's scoring goals, that's great. What I read was that Mick McCarthy said, congrats on all the goals, and are you interested in playing for us? And Bamford said yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the point that the FAI have had the confidence to put it out on their website that they've met, and I think you'd have to do that with a degree of confidence about the players' intention. Otherwise, it's that one. I know you've wished Declan Rice happy birthday.
They sure did.
So but I'm not sure if I'm entirely confident with like the FAI website being used as a sounding board for ideas to see if it works.
So are we going to get updates like Mick and Patrick had a chat? They talked.
Mickey, things have gone well.
But no, seriously though, I mean, I'm sort of with Kilban on this. You know, I feel like he was a bit.
I don't think
entrenched.
it's great either.
I don't think he was a bit too. I thought he was a bit entrenched in the Declan Rice thing. But look, let's not reopen all that. But honestly, Patrick Bamford at this stage, we're a little bit hurt right now. Things are a bit delicate over here on this issue. If you're talking to Mick McCarthy and you want to play for Ireland, then just go and play for Ireland.
Yeah,
like it just is that simple at this stage.
It sits a bit. I have to admit, maybe it's spending too much time like with Kev or listening to Kev. But I sort of see it sits a bit uncomfortable with me. And I've also spoken to Irish players, guys maybe League of Ireland lads, top League of Ireland lads who maybe mightn't get to that level, but it jars with them. I think it jars with and it will jar with Irish players maybe who are pushed down the queue because of this. Because you want someone, if someone's going to live your live stream, you want them, when the option is there, to embrace it straight away. I can understand indecision, very much so. I can understand sometimes players are wondering how they might be received, but when McCarthy's made it clear he wants it, you want it to happen quickly, and it shouldn't take 2 months to have a meeting.
qualification campaign kicking off.
Like it's not. He's not like managing 4 kids and 3 jobs. Like setting up a meeting with a footballer really shouldn't be that complicated. They do have a fair few free hours where you can do that in.
Yeah, I would presume Mick would be willing to travel. So what's the hold up, or why is this?
Well, this is the thing. But it was procrastination from Bamford. I mean, that's been clear.
What's the hold up now? Like why?
Well, now it's just. I think they are up for a meeting, and now I think McCarthy has indicated he wants him in by June.
And will Bamford be of a quality that is straight into the starting 11?
I'd say straight into the squad. He is definitely good enough to start. You'd have to say like Sean Maguire's all-round play has improved. McGoldrick is a bit of a slightly more withdrawn player, though Bamford is technically good, can probably play off he can play as a 10, you would think too, but is he good enough to come straight into your 14 in the sense of, if he doesn't play, he's coming in off the bench? I mean, absolutely. He is of that quality, but I suppose you just want a bit more before you fully embrace it.
Yeah.
And I think Mick, in some ways, has thrown it out there publicly in a way that Bamford will have to answer these questions when the time comes.
Next up, we're going to talk to Leon Blanche from our sponsor, Boyle Sports. And in the course of the discussion, we will be referring to betting odds and gambling. And if you're affected by this type of content, then you can check out for a few moments and come back to us in about 10 minutes' time. And remember, gamble sensibly. For more, check gambleaware.ie or visit dunlewey.net. That's DUNLEWEY.net. Back in a sec.
Off the ball on News Talk.
Retailers, don't miss out on one of the most important events of your year. Retail Excellence Retail Retreat and Expo, City West Convention Centre, May 21st and 22nd. Retail is changing from digital disruption to Brexit. Find out what's coming around the corner from 70 world-class retail experts, including Anthony Hooker, President and CEO of Southeastern Grocers USA. Hear the latest trends and learn how to grow your business online. Partners to retail, get involved too. It's where you need to be. Book now for tickets and expo space at retailexcellence.ie.
Your mum thinks you're great.
Oh, well done, love.
Your dog thinks you're great. And if your credit record is excellent, we think you're great too. Avantcard is now offering Ireland's lowest rate on loans over €20,000. If your credit score is great, improve your home, upgrade your car, have that dream wedding. The choice is yours. For more info, go to avantcard.ie.
Limited time offer. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. New applications only. Information correct as of February 1st, 2019. See bonkers.ie. Avantcard DAC trading as Avantcard is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Football Index is reinventing football betting. You can buy and sell the world's top players. Their value may go up and down, but it's not over with the final whistle like a regular bet. Football Index, reinventing football betting.
Start building your portfolio today at footballindex.co.uk or download the app now. New customers only, minimum deposit and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
Nissan's latest innovation is the van that never gets old. Buy any 191 Nissan van and replace it with a new van every 3 years from just €49 per week ex-VAT, with 3 years free motor tax and 3 services. Offer must end 31st of March, so visit nissan.ie. Nissan, innovation that excites. Finance offers for business users only. Finance is provided by AIB Leasing Limited by way of a leasing agreement. Allied Irish Banks plc and AIB Leasing Limited, trading as AIB Finance and Leasing, are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Eligibility, lending criteria, terms and conditions apply.
No one does Cheltenham quite like QuinBet. With a huge selection of markets on horse racing, plus all your favourite sports. We've got you covered right through the festival and beyond. And now with live casino and Irish lottery betting, you can find us on mobile, app and PC. QuinBet.com. T's and C's apply. Gamble responsibly. Visit gambleaware.ie.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Yeah, welcome back. So Leon Blanche from our show sponsor Boyle Sports is with us. We're hoping the Champions League is half as good as it was last week. We're going to come to Liverpool away to Bayern in a moment. But Leon, we might start with Juventus away to, or at home rather, to Atletico. In the away leg, Atletico 2-0 winners. So certainly there is a sense here. If Diego Simeone's side managed to score one in Turin, then it's next to nigh on impossible for Juventus.
Yeah, look, it does. And even, Joe, if they score one, actually, Juve would need to score four because of the away goal rule. So, Juve would have been hoping to at least get on the score sheet in Madrid. They didn't. Ronaldo was very unlucky on a couple of occasions. But Atletico Madrid, you've got to give so much credit to Diego Simeone. The way he has his players playing for him down the last 4 or 5, maybe even 6 seasons, they'll run through a brick wall for him. They keep it very tight, but they've also got plenty of attacking options. The likes of Griezmann, Costa, and of course Alvaro Morata is now with Atletico Madrid. But Juve at home, they have an exceptional record in Serie A. They're walking away with that league title. And I think if they could get an early goal, Juve wouldn't be afraid at all to keep it very tight. They're 7-10 favourites just to win the match. Atletico Madrid are a big enough price at 9-2 because I think looking at it, I think Juve will obviously be trying to get that goal quite quickly in the game to try and give them something to aim at, but Atletico might just hit them on the break. It's going to be a fascinating encounter. Many people were looking at Juve with the signing of Ronaldo, and they were thinking he might be the man to finally bring the Champions League to Turin. But this is an uphill battle. It's going to be a fascinating football match, but you wouldn't be surprised if Juve could turn it on at home. I think they're quite capable of keeping a clean sheet. It's whether they can score the required amount of goals to knock Atletico Madrid out.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Sorry, I misspoke as well. Yeah, 4 goals. So, I mean, it will be interesting to see how Juve approach this, because I really do think if they concede one, it's almost game over. So that's going to be interesting. And then Bayern, Liverpool. Bayern, they won 6-0 at the weekend. Liverpool won as well, scored 4 goals. This one is finally poised as well.
Yeah, look, I think from a Liverpool perspective, when they kept the clean sheet with a kind of a makeshift back four against Bayern Munich, I think Jurgen Klopp would have been quite content with that scoreline. They had a couple of half chances, not really any clear-cut chances. It seemed Bayern were content to take the draw at Anfield. And certainly, a lot of people have been talking about the demise of this Bayern Munich side, but I watched them against Liverpool and they were able to keep the ball very well.
Yeah.
They've still got a lot of players who are match winners on the day. But the one good thing for Liverpool fans is if they score once, of course, Bayern have to score twice because of the away goal. And look, Liverpool score in most games they play. Their last 2 Premier League games, however, have been 0-0 away to Manchester United and away against Everton. The match betting sees Liverpool as the underdogs at 12-5. Bayern Munich are 11-10. And the draw here is 13-5. Look, it's going to be fascinating. Do Bayern come out and attack straight away and then leave yourself open for Liverpool's counter-attack? Because when you've got Salah, Mane and Firmino, if you give them space, more often than not, they will punish you. It's going to be a very intriguing game. Jurgen Klopp, of course, going back to Munich. He, of course, was touted as going from Dortmund to Munich before he took the Liverpool job. So there's a lot at stake. It's a massive game. 4 huge clubs we've talked about, and only 2 of them will make it through to the quarterfinals. Yeah, it should be good. Thanks a million. Cheers. All the best, Joe. Cheers, Leon Blanche there from our sponsor, Boyle Sports. And for more information,
you can see offtheball.com/BoyleSports. And remember to gamble sensibly. And if you are in need of any help or advice on that front, you can see dunlewey.net, DUNLEWEY.net. Pretty much just done for this evening. OTBAM back tomorrow at 7:45. We'll have Kenny Cunningham in studio tomorrow evening on the radio as we enjoy all the Champions League action. And Tom Dunn is on the way next.